Hi, John Nielsen again, Wing Chun Hall, and here we're going to do same-side wrist grab part 2. Last time we did same-side wrist grab, I showed you one option for getting out of the wrist grab. And since then I've done a little bit of looking into what other people are doing on the internet in terms of like self-defense. And I've wanted to modify my approach a little bit and talk to you a little bit about that. So I've been saying, like, I don't know how they know this, and this is what I mean by that. People will come and they'll say something like this. They'll say, yeah, typically someone who's trying to attack you might come around and grab you like this. And, you know, how do they know? Like, when have they done the research for this? What is it like? 4 out of 5 rapists surveyed prefer the same side wrist grab method. See, so I don't really know that, you know, and I don't think that they do either. And I would like to see some surveys. But surveying the rapists probably isn't a good idea. You want to go to the victims and do that. And maybe somebody can come up with that. And if anybody knows about that out there, hey, feel free to, you know, send us a message and let us know that that's out there. But see, even if you did that, even if somebody were to do that, I would say that still only partly prepares you for it. Because just because you know about how some people were approached doesn't mean that that's the way that you're going to be approached if it ever happens to you. So what we're looking for actually is a system that gives you options, not just one thing to do, but several different things to do. I think I've come up with the reason why people are doing this, though. Because when we teach self-defense, then we have a whole system of it, and there are several different things that might happen to you someplace in there. And we'll teach these kinds of grabs and escapes from these kinds of grabs, too. But we either teach them in a static or in a dynamic way or approach to it. And what I mean by that is that, let's say again that we have the same side wrist grab and even needs to get out of it somehow, right? So if we're in the middle of a fight, maybe I grab it. Like say she threw a punch at me and I came over here and I got a hold of her hand and then I brought it down here and I held on to it. That might happen someplace like that, right? So in other words, this came out of a punch. It didn't just come out of like nothing. I didn't walk up and just grab her. It came out of something else. And that was more dynamic. But it's hard to teach that dynamically, and so you have to break it down. You have to teach it statically. And my theory is that people went through this kind of training and they said, oh, look at this. This is something that I could teach to somebody in terms of self-defense. But then it becomes an incomplete answer to the problem. However, having said that, I also want to make sure that, that people are aware that it might happen. For instance, Simon is a security guard at a hospital, and sometimes people grab him by the wrist like that. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, it's not super uncommon to just be walking down the hallway and somebody grabs your wrist as you're walking by. Like if Eva walks by me, it's just, hey, or just like grab and saying, hey, I have a question for you. But in that line of work, yeah, it's not the most dangerous line of work in the world. I can't risk having someone having control of my arm. So in one of those situations, I'm not going to pop out of the wrist hold and then strike the guy or just step in and punch him for grabbing me. I've got to think it through, but I need to get through it quick. I need to make sure he knows he can't hold on to me, but I need to also make sure I don't hurt him.
But you also need the option of being able to strike him if it comes to that, right? I mean, once you get out, you need to be in a position where you could strike if you had to, right?
Yep.
And then we had an incident not very long ago up at the University of Utah where he was a student. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about that? What happened?
Well, apparently what happened was a girl was outside of the dormitories and a car drove up, and she thought maybe she recognized them because they motioned her over. When she went over to the car, to the passenger side, the guy opens the door, reaches out and grabs a hold of her arm. And she started struggling, and then it was some passerbys that came by that saw what was going on, and then the car drove off, leaving her safe. But if she had actually known how to get out of just a simple wrist grab, she could have just gotten away and ran faster than he could have got out of the car back into the dormitories or something. So there are situations in which people do grab you, but that's not every situation.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the common way, like everybody says, this is the common way they're going to grab you. Well, okay, it might happen. Right. Now, what I have a problem with when people try to tell you how to escape from this is they say, this works, this is what you learn. And I say, well, that might work sometimes, but I think that there are inferior and superior solutions to your problem. Okay? And so you need to have more than one option, and you need to understand why one thing is superior, why it's inferior to something else that might happen. Like, for instance, the last time we talked about this, I said that if somebody grabs you like this, then it's an inferior solution to roll your wrist this way and pull out and run away. But in the case of the girl in the car, that wouldn't have been an inferior solution. That would probably be the best thing she could have done because she can't, punch through the car. Now, one thing that I've seen people say is they'll say, okay, look, this doesn't work, so here's what you do. Oh, okay? So, go ahead, let me go. Just come up and hit. All right, now I'm going to do that to Simon. And as I was saying before, when you give me one solution, I'm telling you that one solution is wrong. I mean, it might work sometimes, but it can't be the only solution. So if you say, here's what you're going to do, he grabs me like this, I go to hit him, he's going to jerk me over here. See, the reason why I've got to escape in the first place is because his grab gives him control over my stance. And that's where the problem is. Now see, if he were to grab me like that and pull me like that, and I work this kind of an escape, I can get out. And so I can still come over here and I can still attack him. Now that might be the best thing to do. And I'm not going to say that the hit to the face is not going to work. It might work under certain circumstances. But you need several different options. That's the reason why you need a system that's going to give you lots of things that you can do. And you need to learn how to work it statically and dynamically. Now since we went over the one static one last time, we're going to do another static one this time. So Simon and Eve are going to show you same side wrist grab, and you're going to do the turn and just kind of come out of it. So you see, this is an exercise that they can do, and they go back and forth. He practices, she practices it, he practices, she practices it, so they get to the point where they're pretty good at it. And then you can also do the other one, right? So you grab it and get out of it the other way too, like before. So that one too. So there's another solution to the problem. Okay, and those aren't the only solutions to this problem. There's just a couple that we're looking at right now. Now in Wing Chun, we have an exercise that we call sticking hands. And we have one-side sticking hands and two-sided sticking hands. And we can use this kind of an exercise for both types of escapes. So right now they're going to do the single sticking hand. Go ahead and do that. And then Simon's going to grab Eva and she's going to escape. So you see, this is simulating that they're in the middle of some sort of encounter. And then Simon went ahead and grabbed her in the middle of that, and then she escaped, and then she ended up grabbing him. Okay, so now he's going to escape. Okay, one of you guys escape, and then you go back to this, right? And then you're back into this single sticking hand exercise. Now, and this exercise has a routine, but you don't have to stick with the routine all the time. Okay, now as I said before, you also have a two-sided sticking hand exercise, and they're going to work that now, and I don't care who grabs him at this point. So now they're doing two-handed sticking. Oh, he missed. And she got out. See, he grabbed her and she got out. So he can reach down and grab her from one side, and she can practice the escape. And then she grabs him this time. So this time he's going to escape in that direction, and he's going to come at her. And again, they're going back into these exercises, simulating punches and contact at some point. This is where I think Wing Chun is really superior to others because, again, it gives you several options and several ways out of it. And yeah, she might hit him. And that's good for now. So I just want to wrap up with a couple of comments. It seems to me that a person is more likely to attack you with either a punch or a tackle than with just a grab. But that doesn't mean that if they grab you, I mean, if they're really intent on doing you harm, it's probably going to be attack or a grab. So, or a punch. So that's what you need to learn how to defend yourself against, more than anything else. So you need a whole system. Once again. But that doesn't mean that this kind of thing won't happen every now and again. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't practice different things. Like we were saying before, in Simon's case as a security guard, somebody comes up and grabs him and he just needs to get out of it for whatever reason. His first response can't be just smack the guy in the nose. okay? Can't be like that, right? It might have to be an escape for whatever reason. Also, it might be though. Again, it could be, depending on what the other person is trying to do to him. So you need a system of options, and CHISA helps you with that.